All right, Ashish, friend, buddy, colleague. So good to sit in this format and talk a little bit about our journey together, right? So we were just catching up here and talking about some of our projects that we've been on, and you kind of identified something. You and I have probably been on the most projects together, maybe of anybody in my career, right?
Absolutely, and I was surprised when I was thinking about it. I was like really surprised at how much overlap we have had on the number of projects, and not just the number of projects, but even the nature of those projects were transformational, both for the organization as well as for individuals that were involved in those projects.
So that's a great point. I've never really thought about that. So the projects kind of spanned across everything in retail, right? So point of sale, pin pad refresh. There are multiple like e-commerce initiatives. One was a third party, the Miracle platform upgrade, right? Like enabling third parties to sell on the same website as the retailer. Let's see, what else have we had?
So the loyalty relaunch was a huge one, where we completely rebranded the loyalty platform for, and loyalty was a very significant part of the business. And the project was like, again, a lot of these projects were absolutely when we both got involved, they were in critical phases, and they were definitely transformative for the company. But my most favorite one was the contact center.
The call center.
We completely retransformed not just the technology involved there. We did an upgrade of the software, but what I'm most proud of in that engagement was how we updated a lot of the business processes associated with how the contact centers operated, including a champion challenger model that was phenomenal.
So you and I know exactly what that means, right? So let's set the stage here. Champion challenger model. So the client, which your former employee of, client of mine for 2.5 years, essentially already had an existing call center. They're coming into peak season and holiday, and our challenge was to stand up a second call center, which is a totally different vendor because these are both third parties, and insert the technology that allows synergies across email, phone, chat. Did I miss any?
And social media.
And social media, that's right. Those are the different ways that users could essentially talk to this client, and the idea of, based on each call center vendor's availability of resources, would route users to either call center. And if they called day one and called day two and hit two different call centers, they need to have a synergy across where like call center 2 could service them.
Exactly.
With no break in service, right?
Yeah. So seamless transition of data between the two providers, or the model that we set up allowed for multiple vendors, and how we could allocate call volumes based on, like you said, resource availability, the costs associated, the service level agreements that we have had with the different metrics that we measure the providers on.
Not to mention reporting to go with it.
Exactly. So a lot of the dashboarding, a lot of extremely advanced features like Secure Pay, which was essentially a compliance requirement. Right. So some of my favorite functionalities, and that too coming from a program management background where we may not be necessarily the experts in contact center capabilities, but to be able to scale up very quickly to deliver what's needed for the business. That's what I appreciate about what you brought to the table, and build those relationships, because the number of teams that on each of these programs that we've talked about, the number of internal and external teams that we had to engage with was substantial. E-commerce, marketing, customer care, technology groups like integration and QA and various groups. So from that standpoint, I think the fact that we were able to deliver those large initiatives on time, on budget, on schedule was, I think, phenomenal. I'm proud of some of those accomplishments that you were a partner on.
No, thank you. And I always enjoy working with you in particular. Call center was probably, a year or two into my stay there. And, the criticality of that project was insane. So I wasn't there from the beginning. I came in, And the entire project team had turned over, if I remember correctly, with the exception of the one QA lead. So we have no BA. We're missing like 2 or 3 levels of management on the business side. So the director was missing, the middle manager was missing. Essentially, these were new people in role that were supporting this work stream. You had just moved over from a different department and kind of got assigned this project from an IT stakeholder standpoint. And then again, I'm coming in midstream from a PM standpoint. I'm not sure why the first PM was like, I don't know if his SOW had ended, like what the situation was there. I can't remember, but I just remember early conversation with you and also like onboarding with the PM before he left and him saying, this is the scope, and you saying, we haven't even delivered half the functionality here.
Right. There was a lot to get done. And there was a lot, like you said, there was a lot of turnover on the project preceding when I joined the project, as well as when you were brought onto the project soon after I joined, because I was like, I wanted Chuck on this project. We needed to deliver. We had tight timelines. We had very, very I won't say well-defined scope, but the expectations were extremely high. We had a deadline with regards to the contract with the incumbent vendor that we had, and we were not going to go get away from them, but we were going to create a champion challenger process. So navigating through all of that while maintaining, like, despite the turnover and maintaining those stakeholder relationships was extremely crucial on that particular project. And I think, again, coming in at the tail end of the implementation with limited resources and knowledge that had gone in at the inception and planning phases of the project was an uphill task. But I think that's one of the highlights of my career as well, because I'm extremely proud of what we were able to accomplish with that project.
Agreed. You want to talk a little bit about the loyalty platform upgrade, and particularly the number of teams involved. That might have been one of the biggest teams that we ever ran. So vendors of vendors, and internal stakeholders and teams, right? Because the loyalty program is so integrated across the infrastructure, right? So you're talking e-commerce, you're talking call centers are involved again. You've got reporting, data analytics. Am I missing anyone?
I think you covered most of it.
Okay.
E-commerce being the most integral part of that particular program. Like, of course, performance marketing is where loyalty technically sat, but the tentacles it has into various functions in e-commerce with regards to mobile app capabilities, the web capabilities, and all the other integrations with third-party CRM execution systems, etc., was immensely complicated, along with point-of-sale integrations, etc. So there was definitely a lot of complexity on that initiative. Again, I think both of us got involved towards the middle of the project, so we were inheriting in a typical IT project, like, it goes through that life cycle where there are some phases that are just the absolute grind to the finish phase, and I think I consider you as a specialist that can come in and help through that phase that sometimes intimidates a lot of other people towards that last grind, and still build that relationship despite coming in as an outsider, bringing in that fresh perspective.
Yeah.
But also ensuring continuity on some of those initiatives, I think, is crucial. So with regards to loyalty, I think similar to contact center, lots of different teams involved, a lot more development involved than we talked about with contact center, a lot more like, of your core traditional technology upgrade related activities. But and I think at least my involvement was more heavily from the testing perspective, very, very complex integrated QA across a lot of different teams. I think the teams came through. It was a huge collaborative team effort with several teams coming together on making sure that the systems functioned as they were expected to function before we went live. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was quite frankly a fabulous launch.
It was.
It was a huge upgrade, but went with minimal to no issues.
Very smooth, and I want to say it was a 2-week deployment too. So for
Right.
something that complicated, I mean, the way that we had to strategize around that, I was exceptionally impressed at how we were able to go live over 2 weeks and not break a single thing, right?
Right.
I want to talk about one more thing. I remember gaining some significant insights about myself while working with you. Like you said, we worked on so many different projects. I always tease you about the fact that you've owned every application area, it feels like, at Express or at the client. One of the things I want to talk about is, one time you told me, you said, I need you on this work stream. I can't remember which of the work streams it was. You were like, because you're a closer. And I never really thought about that. Like, I always think about the relationship part of it, but you're like, no, I need to make sure that we close decisions and keep moving forward here.
Right. So again, I think a lot of it stems from relationships, like, being able to build those crucial relationships with in difficult circumstances is where a lot of extremely complex programs fail. It's not not necessarily the failure of technology. It's sometimes understanding. It's that communication, it's that understanding. But getting to understand the perspective of all the parties involved, all the stakeholders, and making sure that we have clear, concise communication on what we are doing to meet all of their needs, and if there are constraints on the project, communicating those effectively to the various stakeholders, whether it is to communicate up or to communicate down. It's equally important to let the team know, and I think that drives the results that I would expect on a lot of these critical, complex engagements. So I consider that as an extremely critical skill that's required from a role like where you've been involved with on various engagements in my recent past. But so I definitely value that a lot, because it stems from building those relationships, but it's not building those relationships without purpose or unintentionally. It's being very purposeful in building those relationships to make sure that, and it's not with a sense of I need to get something from somebody and that's why I'm building that relationship. It's being transparent in that communication. It's being understanding and empathetic about what the others around us need from us. I think that quality is where I see a lot of the results come through with regards to being able to close on decisions and delivering critical results.
Okay, that's a great summary there. Last thing, I distinctly remember when we first met, which was basically during the kind of like interviewing phase and seeing if I was the right fit for Express's needs at the time. And I interviewed with you plus maybe 5 other people, because my first initiative was across so many application areas and a first of its kind for Express. You asked me about something that was on my LinkedIn profile, and it was this description of, I described myself as a Swiss Army knife. And you said, hey, tell me a little bit about this whole Swiss Army knife. Now, many, many years later, right? Like that was 2018, it's 2023. 5 years later, what did you see over all the time that we worked that kind of ties in with that Swiss Army knife approach?
So I think, again, now that you say that out, I do remember that distinctly. It's a great analogy. It's a great analogy for you. I think you're extremely articulate in how you not only describe what you bring to the table, but you truly have added value in a lot of different areas. For me personally, one the organization that you have is extremely valuable. Like you follow through, you ensure that if something is critical to the project, it's being followed upon, and it's not somebody else's responsibility. And in the leadership roles that we've trusted you with, it's required that we follow through. So extremely important skill. Now, it's not the technical skill of a Python developer or a Java developer or a automation analyst, but that's where we're able to delegate to the teams that are doing the work of the works. But coordinating all of that is where I think the analogy of the Swiss Army knife comes for me, is to make sure we're not the nuclear weapon, we're the Swiss Army knife that can do almost anything that you need to do, but without having to destroy a large region. But quite frankly, just with the unique skill set of being as diverse as you are, I think that definitely is, in my mind, I will be able to. At that time, it was a question out of curiosity. Yeah. I think definitely I would agree wholeheartedly that you've played a very, very crucial role in various aspects, of being able to deliver some of these programs successfully.
No, I appreciate that feedback. That's great, and I want to make sure that my larger audience, my larger client audience understands that differentiation as well, because obviously myself and other consulting firms are selling a similar product. We're saying we can get teams over the hump, get them to the promised land of implementation, but I wanted to make sure that people understand the difference from folks that have experienced it. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it.